Going back to tariffs, they could trigger higher prices, could create shortages. Potentially, possible, likely, predicted, might. A lot of words in there that may not happen. Between the lines. So I'm reading from the newspaper right here. This is from Knox News, May 4th, 2025. It's a long article going through the whole thing. And I'm reading this and I'm just like, all right, there is a lot of adjectives or adverbs or whatever it is. Put it in the comments. I don't know what they're called anymore. I forget. But bottom line, everybody's worried about these tariffs. And now I did a video not too long ago about tariffs, and there was a good conversation back and forth with a few members who had some interesting things to say. Let's just talk about that. But medication and health is very personal, of course. It's very different. It's very varied. There's a lot of different variations with all this stuff. But you need to look between the lines to find the truth. Okay, so I'm going through this article, and here's kind of one of the major headings down below. It's April 14th. Trump's Department of Commerce said in a Federal Register filing that is investigating whether imports of pharmaceuticals and pharmaceutical ingredients pose a threat to the United States national security. So think about that as well. The national security. Okay, we're talking health. We're talking everything going forward. But what if these carriers and the people that are making all these drugs from around the world have an issue with anything, the United States, and they just want to hurt the United States? What if they just stop producing the ingredients or the drugs themselves? They just stop it. They say they want to hurt us, so they just don't do it. Or they put it to a lesser degree per se. What's the quality control on the drugs coming in? So we're testing them and they're all testing fine, but yet the later batches aren't working too well. So I was thinking that's a possibility. And then what happens if they actually put some poison in there? I mean, worst case scenario, they start poisoning our people through our medications. It's kind of a national security. It's kind of important. And it goes on to read that the comment period seeking input and how Americans rely on foreign supply chains for their prescription drugs. The investigation will seek to address how trade policies impact domestic drug production and whether tariffs are needed to protect national security. Because why aren't we making the important drugs here in the United States? And you're going to say it's cost, it's all these other issues, patents, where the companies decide where they want to go. But isn't it important to have it here on our shores where we can kind of control it and they're not being shipped around the world and there's not potentially hostile environments making these things? It's something to think about. Okay, and then it's interesting, these articles, because this is a big article. This is like almost a whole entire page. All right, so it goes on further in the article. It says brand name drugs that already command higher prices are less likely to be impacted by tariffs. Okay. Generic drugs, which account for the vast majority of prescriptions filled by consumers in the United States, have small profit margins and are more likely to feel financial squeeze from tariffs. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I get that. And then it moves forward, and it says from Mariana Sokal, Associate Professor of Health Policy, Americans pay the highest prices in the world for our drugs. We pay 3 to 4 times higher prices than other comparable countries. 3 or 4? Why is that? Why are we paying more? If you know, put it in the comments. I'm curious. I do need to do my own research again. I don't never prove to know everything. Okay, this is a comment thing. I want to hear what you have to say. If you're an expert, or even if you just know, put it in the comments. Let me know. The other thing I was reading too, the U.S. healthcare system had grappled with a periodic drug shortages already. So drug shortages for 2 decades. The number of drugs in shortage peaked in 2024 in the first quarter. Who was president in 2024 in the first quarter? Okay, then it dropped to, it went from 323 drugs to 270 drugs in March of 2025. Again, well, actually, I shouldn't say again, it's different. Who was president in March of 2025? Who had only been in office for a month and a half. So the reasons for the shortages, they did range from disruptions caused by hurricanes to factory contamination that shut down production lines in some cases, and drug manufacturers stopped making the drugs. Oh, I think I just said all that, but now it's in print. So I was reading ahead. I actually made my notes before I read that. So I'm sure COVID had a little issue in that too, but contamination, and they just decided to stop making them. All the more reasons to make drugs in America. So pharmaceutical products has become globalized over the last 3 decades, with large factories in India and China producing a large share of generic drugs and drug ingredients. What's more, drug makers have shifted production to European nations such as Ireland due to tax advantages. So they're already moved to other places because of tax advantages. Why can't the United States offer tax advantages that they can't get elsewhere too? Think about that. We're already there. And then the article ends. This is the interesting thing about this. So the article kind of goes forward as a lady named Melissa Barber, a drug pricing expert and affiliate of Yale Collaboration and Regulatory Rigor. She said domestic manufacturing could ensure a guaranteed supply of critical medicines to counter a market that is dysfunctional. However, abruptly changing trade policies won't achieve that goal. This is not groundbreaking stuff. It's just a question of let's have a plan. Let's prioritize the drugs and let's not throw the markets into chaos. So this expert, pricing expert, is not saying we're doing anything wrong. She's just saying don't throw it into chaos. Okay. All the more reason to make things in the United States to make sure that this market goes smooth, to take care of our drugs. So again, I'm not an expert. If you know something, put it in the comments. Let's have a conversation. I'm going to keep looking for the truth between lines.
Between the lines.